In a stunning move, U.S. Special Forces stormed Fuerte Tiuna, Venezuela's largest military base, in the early hours of January 3, 2026. Their mission capture President Nicolás Maduro. The operation was swift and deadly. Over 80 people killed, including Venezuelan soldiers, civilians, and 32 Cuban personnel. No American casualties were reported. Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were flown directly to New York, now held at the Metropolitan Detention Center. The U.S. Department of Justice announced they'll face charges of drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, and illegal weapons possession. Cuba, reeling from the loss of its personnel, declared 2 days of national mourning, highlighting the deep Havana-Caracas alliance. The raid's aftermath, shock, condemnation, and a dramatic escalation of tensions in the Caribbean. The world is left questioning the legality and consequences of this unprecedented action. The region braces for what comes next. President Trump wasted no time declaring, "The U.S. is now in charge of Venezuela." He warned Venezuela's new leaders cooperate or face another strike. Trump's threats extended beyond Venezuela. He called Colombia's President Petro a sick man and hinted at possible U.S. action in Colombia. Mexico was told to get its act together against drug cartels or risk intervention. Trump claimed Cuba is ready to fall, predicting its collapse without Venezuelan oil. With U.S. control over Venezuelan resources, he believes Cuba's days are numbered. These statements sent shockwaves through Latin America, signaling a new era of U.S. assertiveness. Trump's rhetoric leaves little doubt. The U.S. is prepared to use force and economic power to shape the region. Allies and adversaries alike are on notice. The message is clear. Washington is setting the rules. The region's leaders are scrambling to respond. The world watches, wary of what this bold new policy means. Across Latin America, outrage erupted over the U.S. raid. Even critics of Maduro condemned the intervention as a violation of sovereignty. Colombia's President Petro called for regional unity against U.S. aggression. Mexico's President Sheinbaum insisted on handling security without foreign interference. Brazil, Chile, Uruguay, and Spain joined in denouncing the raid as a dangerous precedent. In Venezuela, chaos reigns. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez is acting president, calling for dialogue but also Maduro's release. Exiled opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez claims he's the legitimate president, deepening the power struggle. 3 figures now vie for control: Maduro, Rodriguez, and Gonzalez. The country faces a political vacuum and uncertainty. The U.S. intervention has only intensified the crisis. The region fears further instability. President Trump made U.S. goals clear: control Venezuela's vast oil reserves. American companies are set to repair and run the oil industry, restoring production and U.S. influence. Trump promised elections at the right time, but gave no timeline, raising fears of a prolonged U.S. presence. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced oil blockades, with the U.S. Navy poised to intercept shipments to China or Iran. This economic squeeze aims to force Venezuela's new leaders to comply with U.S. demands. The strategy: military force, then economic pressure. Classic American playbook. Critics warn this could deepen Venezuelan suffering and fuel anti-U.S. resentment. The U.S. now controls Venezuela's fate, but at what cost? The world questions whether this is liberation or occupation. The stakes for Venezuela's future and U.S. credibility are enormous. The region watches nervously as the U.S. tightens its grip. The outcome remains uncertain. The U.S. raid has revived old fears of American interventionism in Latin America. The Don Roe Doctrine, a play on Trump's name, signals a return to aggressive U.S. dominance. The scale of the operation, capturing a sitting president, has left left-leaning governments on edge. Trump's threats against Colombia and others have created a climate of fear and uncertainty. Leaders who defy Washington now worry they could be next. The U.S. message: comply or face consequences. The secrecy of the operation, bypassing even top U.S. lawmakers, adds to the anxiety. America's unpredictability unsettles allies and adversaries alike. Latin American nations are left guessing what Washington might do next. The region's independence feels more fragile than ever. The shadow of U.S. power looms large. The U.S. intervention in Venezuela has drawn global condemnation and support. CELAC, representing nearly all Latin American and Caribbean nations, issued a strong statement against the U.S. action. Iran, a close Venezuelan ally, denounced the raid, fearing for its investments. Pope Francis called for Venezuelan independence, adding moral weight to the criticism. Yet some right-wing leaders like Argentina's President Milei praised the intervention as a blow against socialism. The region is deeply divided. Some see a violation of sovereignty, others a victory for democracy. In the U.S., Congress is split. Democrats demand answers, accusing Trump of overreach. The White House faces scrutiny for acting without informing lawmakers. The decision to bar foreign journalists from Venezuela has fueled suspicion and criticism. The battle over the narrative is fierce. International trust in U.S. intentions is at a low point. The world is watching, and the stakes are global. The crisis has become a test of American power and legitimacy. Venezuela faces a dangerous power vacuum. Maduro jailed, rivals vying for control, and chaos on the streets. The U.S., now in charge, must stabilize the country and deliver on promises of elections and recovery. Trump's oil plan could revive Venezuela's economy, but many fear profits will flow to U.S. corporations, not Venezuelans. The intervention's ripple effects are felt across Latin America, with Colombia, Mexico, and Cuba on high alert. Will the U.S. repeat this playbook elsewhere, or was Venezuela a one-off? Regional bodies like CELAC are under pressure to defend sovereignty. The coming weeks will be critical. Legal battles in New York, political turmoil in Caracas, and diplomatic maneuvering across the hemisphere. The world is watching to see if the U.S. delivers stability or creates a long-term protectorate. The choices made now will shape the region's future, cooperation or renewed conflict. Latin America stands at a crossroads, its fate uncertain.